Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Let's talk a bit about the upcoming Katie Taylor Chantelle Cameron fight, which is scheduled for the 3 Arena in Dublin. That's in May the 20th, I think it is. And both these ladies are undisputed champions. So it's going to be at 140. Katie's jumping up to take on Chantelle for all her belts at 140. But I was watching a video, it was a G-Man video. Shout out to G-Man as always. And he had a guest on, Base the Kid. Shout out to Base the Kid as well. Join their channels, subscribe to both those guys. Great channels. But they were talking about this fight, and Base the Kid said, you know, it's a shame that this isn't at 135, because then you'd have 8 belts on the line. Chantelle Cameron has apparently said she can make 135. Why doesn't she go down to 135? And then we've got, you know, it's for all the marbles. Both these girls are putting everything they've got on the line. It would be an absolute women's super fight, possibly the biggest ever super fight. And it's a question worth asking, because I like the idea in principle. And then I got to think, well, Cameron has said she can make 135, but can she? Because in videos, interviews that she's done, certainly a couple of months ago, she was looking quite heavy. I mean, I was quite shocked when I saw her up close, because her face was a lot fatter. She had a bit of a beginnings of a double chin. Nothing to rival mine, of course. But, you know, I'm thinking, 135, really? I imagine you boil yourself down to 140, and that's not easy. And then I got to thinking, sometimes the temptation to do that, to get greedy and to go for all the belts, to go for all the glory, can be a bad thing. And the example that popped into my mind from the last 10 years was when Chad Dawson went down to 168 and fought Andre Ward, and it didn't work out. Now, you can argue that Ward could have gone up to 175 and would still have stopped Dawson, but Dawson got stopped in 10 at 168, and you've got to ask the question, how much of that was down to the weight? Because Dawson had been looking very good. He'd beaten Bernard Hopkins twice, and to go down another 7 pounds, I mean, it must have taken something out of him. It must have drained him. And John Scully, who I think was Dawson's trainer, said afterwards, you know, it was a mistake, but Dawson was tempted to do that, to boil himself down. And this is the problem, because sometimes fighters who are undefeated and on a roll, they're thinking, or even if it's subconscious, they're thinking, I'm pretty much indestructible. Yeah, another 7 pounds, I can take that off. Or in Chantelle's case, you know, another 5 pounds, I can get that off, no problem. And then recently we had Eubank Jr. going down initially to fight. He was going past 160. I mean, 157 was the stipulated weight for the aborted fight with Conor Benn. The fight, as we know why it was cancelled. So Eubank, who has never looked vulnerable to the chin ever, goes in with Liam Williams and gets ironed out in 4 rounds. I mean, that was a shocker. The way he unravelled there was bad. And I'm convinced it's got something to do with the weight. And if you're old like me, you can think of many examples of this. You can think of Donnie Lalonde going down to 168 to fight Sugar Ray Leonard. There were 2 belts on the line. And don't forget, the WBO hadn't yet been established, so there were only, in inverted commas, 3 major belts. WBC super middleweight title, which I think was the first ever super middleweight title that the WBC sanctioned, and also Lalonde had his 175 pound belt on the line. So he thinks, I'll go down to 168, I'll beat up Ray Leonard, who's a legend, and I'll pick up another belt. And in fact, Lalonde had Leonard on the floor early, in one of the early rounds. Was it the 5th? I can't remember which round it was, but this was it 1988 or something like that? No, but after that, surely. 89? I don't know. Anyway, whenever it was, Lalonde was looking strong, was never the most talented of fighters, but was so much bigger than Leonard, who packed on the weight. Still was nowhere near as big as Lalonde. But Lalonde ran out of steam, and Leonard chinned him. And that final barrage from Leonard showed what a vicious fighter he could be, because he absolutely flattened Lalonde. But again, how much did the weight have to do with this? You know, had it been at 175, could Donnie have maintained his stamina and beaten up Leonard? Continued to beat up Leonard, maybe even stopped him. You know, you just never know. This weight thing is important. So if Cameron is finding it difficult with the weight, she's quite right to have said, no, I'll do it at 140, but not at 135. Don't get greedy. Don't start to think that you are indestructible. Both these ladies are undefeated, of course, because Katie's 22 wins and no defeats with 6 KOs. Not the biggest one-punch hitter, but she can sting you, you know. And Chantelle, 17 wins, no defeats, 8 KOs in her 17 wins. And by the way, at 140, I think that this is an interesting fight. I'm going to have to think about this one because I think Cameron has a very, very realistic chance of winning. She's 31 years old, Chantelle. She's 69-inch reach, 5'8". I think she's so I read this on BoxRec. Whereas Katie, 36, a lot of miles on the clock there. Don't forget the amateur career, as if you could. 5'5", so she's 3 inches shorter, and she's 66-inch reach, which is 3 inches shorter than Chantelle. So Katie, a true warrior, we know about her. She's going up and taking on a very established champion, a very good champ. Is this a bridge too far? I'll have to think about this one because I'm beginning to think it might be. But yeah, you know, and Chantelle, you know, of course, let's not forget that she's fought and actually dominated some half-decent fighters too. I mean, Jessica McCaskill's a very good fighter. That was her last fight, and she just, I mean, some people had that. I think the judges had it close, but I thought Chantelle won that fight wider than the judges had it. The judges had a couple of them had it like 96, 94 or something like that, 96, 95. I can't remember the exact amounts, but that was over in Abu Dhabi in November of last year. So it's quite relatively recent. So she's been busy. You know, she's been staying busy. And Mary McGee, that was a very, very good win, and that was a very wide decision. Mary McGee isn't a bad fighter either. And we know about Katie. I don't have to go through her resume. So what do you think? Do you think the weight for this fight is going to be, well, do you think Chantelle's right to stay at 140 and say, no, it's got to be here? Or Katie, do you think Katie's jumping up too much? Taking on someone who's naturally bigger and more powerful? Skills pay the bills, as the old saying goes. But what do you think? Leave your comments below about this. Thanks as always for subscribing. Subscribe if you're new. Like the video, that helps us a big deal as well. And we'll speak again soon. Bye for now.